Hello and welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we will discuss in detail about the concept of business ethics, values and changing concepts, and objectives of business. I am Garima Surana and the subject expert of this episode is Dr. Arshia Hussain, specialized in business management and teaching in the Center for Management Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. Let us start this episode with the meaning of business ethics. The word ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means a person's fundamental orientation towards life. Ethics refers to the moral standards used to govern behavior and to determine right or wrong, good or evil. The term business ethics refers to the systems of moral principles and rules of conduct applied to business. These principles are meant to govern the conduct of business persons. Business ethics indicate what right conduct in business matters is. That there should be business ethics means that the business should be conducted according to a certain self-recognized moral standards. The main characteristic of business ethics are: ethics covers all human activities, including business activities. Ethics is important in all types of business organizations, whether it is large or small, manufacturing or service. Business ethics coexists with law, but it is a much broader field. It requires behavior which is socially desirable, even if not legally binding. Ethics is a dynamic term and may change over time. The concept of equity is implied in ethical rules. It provides basis of ethics. It aims at fair and reasonable treatment to all. The main elements of business ethics are: first, values; second, rights; third, duties; fourth, moral rules. First, values. Values are the moral principles and faiths of a person, groups, organization, and a society. In simple words, it represents moral convictions. Values are relatively permanent. For example, a company may charge reasonable prices from its customers due to its value systems in spite of its monopoly position in the industry. Second, rights. Rights are the claims of the individual or organization. In simple words, a right is an entitlement. Rights are rarely absolute, and the scope of individual rights is limited by the right of others. For example, every citizen of India enjoys certain rights under the country's constitution. Third, duties. A duty is something that a person feels he ought to do because it is a part of a code of behavior that he believes in. In simple words, duties are the obligations of a person or an organization. For instance, every citizen has the duty to follow the country's law. Fourth, moral rules. A moral rule is a rule relating to morality. A moral rule guides us in those situations where competing interests collide. These rules are the rules for behavior which then becomes internalized as moral values. For example, use no violence, help each other, and respect persons and their property. Business ethics are important for managers due to the following reasons. First, since business organization uses resources of the society, therefore, in return, it has a social obligation. The social obligation can be discharged if its managers adopt ethical practices. Second, Present-day society is an industrial society, and its values are adopted to a large extent by almost all members of the society. Third, when an organization fails to behave in accordance with the social expectations, it may lose not only its image and market share, but its very survival in the business. Fourth, a manager is expected to serve as a trustee of various social groups, and as the trustee, he must observe the ethical values of the society. Ethical codes are general statements which are made at fairly high levels of abstraction. Ethical codes are the statements of principles which are acceptable to mostly all people. These ethical codes emphasize such things as fair treatment to all, quality goods and services at competitive prices, and honesty in dealing with others. However, ethical code serves the following groups. Customer. When an organization follows a code of conduct, its customers feels confident in dealing with such organization. Customers feel protected against undesirable transactions such as price discrimination, misleading advertisement, and so on. Employees. Ethical codes help employees by providing guidelines regarding their behavior. Employees can easily distinguish between ethical and unethical acts and thereby avoid unethical practices. Company. The company is benefited from ethical codes as less control is to be exercised over the behavior of its employees. These codes also serve as a basis for maintaining good public relations. Industry. The industry gains from ethical codes as these codes make provision for healthy competition and fair trade practices. Society. The codes are beneficial to the society as they guide professionals in the pursuit of ethical behavior in performing their tasks. Ethical standards are originated and developed from the following sources. First, attitude of the society. The first basic source of ethical standard is the attitude of the society. Public disclosure, publicity, media coverage, and better communication increase awareness and consciousness, creating high ethical standards. Society is becoming less independent as individuals become more oriented to groups. Groups establish norms which can have a significant impact on the behavior of individuals. But these norms vary from group to group, causing conflict and confusion concerning which ethical standards should be followed. Second, competitive pressures. India's economic system is built on the fundamental concepts of effort and competition. The importance of competitive system is to outperform others in achieving goals. However, in recent years, the philosophy winning at all cost has become more prominent. Individuals are so much obsessed with this philosophy that they are likely to resort to unethical practices. For example, business firms often make questionable claims in their advertisements in order to outperform their competitors. Third, legal environment. The legislative environment in which businessmen function is quite confusing and full of loopholes. Legal interpretations make it difficult for businessmen to know exactly what is to be done or what course of action to take. The difficulty of interpreting legal issues is due to the fact that law tends to shift with changes in the personnel of the policy-making agencies and also with changes in the economy and the society. Fourth, Code of Ethics. Code of Ethics serves as a guide to all members of the profession or industry. A code of ethics requires and prohibits specific practices. Such code of ethics reminds employees that the company is committed to meeting its standards and asks them to incorporate these standards into their daily activities. Codes of conduct have been developed in medical, legal, and accounting professions. However, there is no universal code of conduct to guide managers. The important factors governing business ethics are: the first and the foremost factor governing corporate ethics are value-forming institutions. These institutions, example, family, religion, school, and the government, shape the value system of an individual. These institutions lay down what is good or bad for an individual. Right behavior is rewarded while wrong behavior is penalized. This continues throughout the life of an individual as the individual acquires certain values through his daily experience in the long run. The influences of these institutions are interrelated. The values cultivated by one institution are reinforced by the other. The organization is a group of individuals and therefore its values are the collective values of its members. This may lead to a conflict between the values of the organization and those of an individual. The second factor governing business ethics are organizational goals. The objective of organization is to influence the values of its members. Being an economic institution, a business must be profitable. The classical economic theory emphasized profit maximization as a main goal of a business organization. Sometimes, managers are bound to compromise their personal ethical values in order to achieve organizational goals. But the goal may be tempered by many other values such as leadership, integrity, knowledge, and skills and survival. All these factors change the goal of an organization and consequently expected behavior from its members. Work and career is another factor governing ethical behavior. Work refers to a specific job or task and the responsibilities associated with it. Career, on the other hand, represents a series of jobs or positions that an individual possesses. Each work has its own values and the individuals performing the work follow these values. For example, sales executives may have different values than engineers. Thus, work and career create special values that give unity, cohesion, and meaning to persons and groups. Sometimes people in general succumb to pressure from their superiors in doing things that they may find unethical otherwise. For example, a secretary may tell a visitor that the boss is out when he actually in the office because her boss had told her to do so. Many a time an employee may sign false documents due to pressure from the boss. Peers and colleagues exert a significant influence on the individual ethical beliefs. An individual in a work group tends to conform to the norms of the group. He does so either to get approval or friendship of his colleagues. He adopts the attitudes, beliefs, and values of the group to which he is associated. If he makes friends that conduct themselves within high ethical standards, he will adopt the same standards. On the other hand, if he makes friends having unethical standards, such as persons using drugs, cheating others, then he will probably accept those behaviors as being ethical. Thus, peers and group exercise a considerable influence on the ethical behavior of individuals. Values may be defined as the moral beliefs or convictions. They contain a judgmental element in that they carry an individual's ideas as to what is right, good, or desirable. Similarly, every company has its own moral convictions or beliefs. Corporate values are the moral beliefs of the corporate sector. These values influence the objectives and priorities of corporate managers. To a great extent, the business values reflect the values of the society in which a business enterprise operates. For example, the basic value of our society is honesty and truth. The businessmen are expected to follow the basic values such that they are expected to avoid adulteration and boarding of goods, false weights and black marketing, false and misleading advertisements, etc. Values are relatively stable and enduring as these are passed from one generation to another. Values play a vital role in business affairs in the following ways. First, corporate values helps in creating a strong corporate culture. An effective value system creates a strong corporate culture which is necessary for high performance and growth in business. Companies which have given excellent performance year after year follow high corporate values. Second, corporate values strengthen, protect and solidify a group. It makes an individual actively involved with society, nation and a business organization. Third, corporate values serves as guides to decisions and actions to managers. These values provide the answers to the basic question as to what is a good business. Values are universal in nature and indicate the right behavior to businessmen. Fourth, corporate values serves as standards or norms against which the conduct of businessmen and their performance can be judged. Fifth, business values help to persuade businessmen to discharge their social obligation. Business firms follow ethical norms to fulfill their responsibilities to different sections of society. Sixth, values help to establish proper relationship between business goals and means. When business adopts well-conserved social values, its goals are socially justifiable. Business values are useful for determining socially worthwhile goals, which in turn determine sound business practices for attaining these goals. The choice, decision and action of Reliance Industries is based upon the following core values. Commitment. The Reliance Industries are committed to constantly introspect and to improve their insight into the marketplace and the real needs of customers. The industry is committed to teamwork and partnership with employees, shareholders, customers and community. Concern. Reliance Industries is empowered to demonstrate care and concern for others in everything the industry do and shall be careful not to cause any harm through our attitudes, words or actions either directly or indirectly. Integrity. Reliance's unique corporate advantage lies in his efforts to improve depth of character and the integrity of his personal and professional relationships. The industry will therefore emphasize honesty, trust and ethical practice in all dealings. Quality. The Reliance industry shall constantly strive to improve upon the products and services and shall innovate in doing things better such that total quality is achieved in every sphere of activities. AIMA Code of Conduct for Professional Managers is given as the Basic Code. A member of a management association affiliated to the All India Management Association AIMA shall try his best to organize the resources available to him with a view of optimize their use in attaining the objectives of the organization. Consider the guide to good management practices conveyed by AIMA from time to time in carrying out tasks primarily responsible to his organization. He is thereafter responsible to the following 6 stakeholders of his organization. First, investors. Second, employees. Third, suppliers. Fourth, customers. Fifth, government. Sixth, community. Not misuse his authority or office for personal gains. Comply with the Indian laws relating to the management of his organization and of his best to operate within the spirit of these laws. To order his conduct to uphold and further reputation of professional management and management movement. A. As regards his organization, a professional manager should act both with loyalty and honesty in carrying out the lawful policy and instruction of his organization and not undermine its image or reputation. Plan, establish and review objectives, tasks and organization structures for himself and his subordinates which are compatible with codes of practices of other professionals in the enterprise and will help to meet the enterprise's overall objectives, and by his own work and through leadership and coordination direct all available efforts towards the success of enterprise rather than of himself. Provide a working climate in which innovation and free exchange of ideas are encouraged. Fully respect the confidentiality of information which comes to him in the course of his duties and not use the information for personal gain or in a manner which may be detrimental to the organization for which he works or has worked. For proper regard to the safety and protection of plant, material and processes committed to his charge. In his contracts and dealing with other people, demonstrate his personal integrity and humanity, and when called upon to give an opinion in his professional capacity, shall to the best of his ability give an opinion that is objective and reliable. B. As regards the investors in his organization, a professional manager should ensure that surplus generated in the operations of the company is divided fairly among investors, employees, and further growth opportunities. Ensure that the investors are given fairly accurate financial and other important operating information periodically. C. As regards the employees, the professional manager should set an example for his subordinates through his own work, capability, and performance, through his leadership and by taking account of the needs and problems of his subordinates. Train people as appropriate under him to become qualified for higher duties, including his own position. Pay proper regard to the safety and well-being of the personnel for whom he is responsible. D. As regards the customer and suppliers, a professional manager should ensure that the terms of all contracts and terms of business stated clearly and unambiguously and honored. In no circumstances supply inherently unsafe goods or services. Operate an organization policy or require one to be established which excludes corrupt practices with regard to the giving or receiving of gifts or benefits, and not to tolerate and practices which could lead to commercial or other corruption. E. As regards government, a professional manager should conform to the national interest as expressed in government policies. F. As regards the community, a professional manager should make the most effective use of all natural resources employed. Be ready to give professional assistance in community affairs. The term business is used in different senses. In a functional sense, it is used to refer to the functions or activities of an organization or individuals. It is also used to refer to the enterprise or unit rendering the business. Traditionally, the term business commonly referred to commercial activities aimed at making a profit or to organizations formed to make a profit. The traditional concept of business confined the definition of business to only commerce and private profit. But in the recent years, the concept of business has undergone a drastic change. Today, business is regarded as a social institution forming an integral part of the social system. According to Calkins, it is now recognized that the direction of business is important to the public welfare, that businessmen perform a social function. According to Davis and Blomstrom, business is a social institution performing a social mission and having a broad influence on the way people live and work together. According to Keith Davis and Robert L. Blomstrom viewed in a much broader way. The term business refers to a development and processing of economic values in society. Normally, we use the term to apply to the private, non-government portion of the economy whose primary purpose is to provide goods and services to customers at a price, but the lines of distinctions are getting hazy as business and government overlap their functions in organizations such as the Communications Satellite Corporation and the Tennessee Valley Authority. In addition, business is a term applied to economic and commercial activities of institutions having other purposes, such as the business office of an opera association. The modern concept of business is a broad one. Business is viewed as subsystem of the total social system. Davis and Blomstrom further remarked that our modern view of society is an ecological one. Ecology is concerned with mutual relations of human populations or systems with their environment. It is necessary to take this broad view because the influence and involvement of business are extensive. Business cannot isolate itself from the rest of the society. Today, the whole society is a business environment. Let us quickly summarize what we have learned in this episode. We discussed about the concept of business ethics. Ethics is generally concerned with the creation and application of judgments of right and wrong. Business ethics refers to the system of moral principles and rules of conduct applied to business. These principles are meant to govern the conduct of business persons. The key terms of ethical language are values, rights, and duties. The ethical code serves customer, employees, company, industry, and societies. Values represent basic convictions that a specific mode of conduct is personally or socially preferable to an opposite mode of conduct. Besides business ethics, we also discussed corporate values, its characteristics, and importance. That is all for today. We will discuss another topic of business environment in the next episode. Till then, take care and goodbye.
Thank you.